Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. My name is Carly, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is July 20th, 2012. I grew up in a really loving and supportive family in a suburb outside of Boston. I have two younger sisters, so I'm the oldest, and growing up was really difficult for me. I always felt really different, which I hear people say and hear a lot, and it's the truth. I felt like I never really fit in. I had to try to fit in, and I was always different. I had problems going to sleepaway camp. I could never get through the camp. I would get homesick a lot. I remember calling my mom in the middle of the night to come pick me up. And then I remember when the drinking started. I was in middle school when I was around my first kind of party with alcohol, and I was really scared. I remember what I would do was I would actually like fake drink and pretend like I was drinking because I was so scared of the alcohol. And for me, that's like, it's crazy that I'm now in here because I abuse the alcohol, because that's how it started, was wanting to fit in and pretending to drink. And I remember telling my mom how scared I was of alcohol. I was so scared to go to college from such a young age. I remember her telling me, you know, just hold the beer in your hand, just, you know, pretend like you're sipping it, just, you know. And I went to high school. I went to 3 different high schools. Eventually I settled in an all-girls school, which I graduated from in 2009. I was really all over the place. And after I graduated, I had no idea where I wanted to go to college. I went to a really good high school, and then I just decided to go to the easiest college that I could get into. So I went to a college in Virginia. And after about a year there, my drinking started getting really bad. So I decided it would be a good idea to move to Miami, Florida. So I moved to Miami and started at University of Miami, and it all started going downhill from there. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Miami, but it's not exactly a typical college party scene. The parties weren't at bars on the weekends, or during the week they were at clubs in South Beach. And the clubs, you'd get to the club at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and you wouldn't leave the club till 5 or 6. And this is me, not everyone, but I mean pretty much everyone there is an alcoholic. So I started taking Adderall a lot because I wouldn't be able to make it through the day hungover. My drinking was never alone. I never drank alone. I drank because I didn't want to face my responsibilities. I didn't want to think about what I had to do the next day. I didn't want to have to face school and getting the test back, which I knew I failed. So I would go out, and in my way of dealing with things was getting completely blackout drunk and waking up the next morning at, 11 or 12, taking Adderall, trying to figure out what I was doing the next night. And in Miami, the football games, there was a lot of day drinking, I was in a sorority, a lot of frat parties. It was really just the perfect recipe for me, for an alcoholic. And I eventually started failing classes, and my parents came down May of my 21st birthday, and my sister was supposed to come with them, my middle sister, and she didn't come because they had come to tell me that I needed to pack up all my stuff and I was going back home, which I manipulated them out of, actually, and I finished the year, the school year, pretty strong. Took my finals, moved to New York City. Yeah. After I told my mom that I would only be having a couple drinks if I went out. 3's the max. It was always 3. 3 is the most drinks I will have if I go out. And it never was that. It never was 3. It was, the way I look at it, I'd rather have no drinks than have 3 drinks or 1 drink. I really, honestly, that never sounded appealing for me, and it was really hard to have to talk to my mom about that. And I had no idea I was an alcoholic. I honestly, didn't even know these meetings existed whatsoever. I really didn't. So I guess from there, I had an internship, and I could never make it on time. I was ending up in New Jersey the next day. I don't know, and I turned my phone off for 2 days, and my parents called the guy I was seeing at the time, and they were like, "Where's Carly?" Because I guess my internship, which my dad had set up, they called my emergency contact because I wasn't showing up. So my parents were really pissed off. I remember I had no money, but I was okay because I had always manipulated my parents into giving me what I wanted my whole entire life. And I was selfish, and I was dishonest, and I was just everything wrong. I was, and I went home for a weekend. I decided to go home. My mom said, "Let's come home for the weekend. Let's go. We had a summer house near the Cape, and why don't you come home and relax from the hot, humid New York?" And so I came home, and she was like, "Oh, I got you a massage." And I looked at her kind of like, "What?" After missing a week of work. She's like, "Yeah, go relax." Little did I know, during that massage, there were 26 of my closest friends and family meeting to plan my intervention. Yeah. So I wake up the next day, I remember seeing my mom with a glass of wine, and it was so hard for me because at this point, I didn't think I had a problem, but I remember seeing her and wanting so bad to ask her for a glass of wine, but knowing that I just couldn't. And the next morning, I woke up to my best friend, who I was living with in New York. So I was like, "What are you doing here?" And she woke me up, and she said, "I need to talk to you in the other room." And I remember kind of, just washing my face. I put on shorts and a t-shirt, and I turned the corner into the other room, and I saw these Dunkin' Donuts boxes, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is going on?" And my heart just kind of stopped, and I was like, "Holy shit, God, what's going on?" So I turned the corner, and there's my whole family is there, and friends, and godparents, and everyone is there. Like, my relatives from, like, across the country were there. I'm not even kidding. Like, my grandmother from Florida, who is, like, not very stable, was there, and I was so confused. I was looking around the room, and I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And this woman comes up. She said, your family's here because they think you have a problem. And I was just like, okay, let's hear this. So then everyone went around, and then I was just so like, what's going on? I never, I don't have a problem. Like, but when all of your family and friends and everyone that loves you is in the room together and telling you that you have a problem, there's nothing you can really do. So I said, okay, I guess, like, they said, oh, the plane's leaving this afternoon to Palm Springs, you're getting on it. And I said, okay, I guess a little vacation wouldn't be so bad. So I went to Palm Springs, and I actually, the first thing I said to them was, I don't have a problem drinking. I just need to control my drinking. So from then on, I went to Palm Springs, and I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. So that was the longest 30 days of my life. I didn't think I had a problem with alcohol, so I actually quit cigarettes just so my parents would get something out of the rehab. And I went to a treatment center for 3 months after that. Don't ask how I said yes to that, and God was speaking through me. Went to a treatment center for 3 months, got my sponsor. I worked all the steps, went to sober living. I kind of threw my hands up. I said, you know what? I'm so done calling the shots. I'm so done having to try to control my life when it's obviously not working out for me, and I have nothing left. So I threw my hands up, and I did whatever they asked me to do. I know that sounds so cliche in here, but I really did. I surrendered, and I took every step. I got a sponsor. I just got out of sober living last month. So I was in sober living till I had my 11 months. And my life is so good today. I'm in school again. I'm doing so well with my family. I have such amazing friends. I have 2 amazing sponsors. I finished the steps. I'm starting the steps over. I'm just happy today. And my story, if anything, to get out of it, I think is my surrender, and also, this is my first time trying to get sober, and I have almost a year, and I'm just, I'm blown away by that. I can't even imagine, like, my life another way. And if there's anyone out there who, is questioning whether or not this is for them, give it a year, That's what I decided to do, and I am the happiest I've been my entire life, so thank you.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.